All right, so about a week ago, I said on Instagram that I'm going to be doing a couples Q&A. So that's Dinty and I answering questions that you guys asked. You guys asked a bunch of questions, and we did this in kind of a little bit of a different way. Basically, Dinty and I answered your questions, but in different rooms. So the same questions, different rooms, so neither of us knew what would, what we were going to say. See if some controversy would be stirred up, or if we would answer kind of differently. It was a fun time. Check it out. I'm nervous. What kind of questions are you going to ask me?
Mainly like sexual fantasies.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. Wait, am I looking into the camera?
Yes.
Where do we start?
Who spends more time doing their hair, you or Dinty?
People always think that I take a long time to do my hair.
Me.
The longer my hair gets, the longer it takes. But right now, with this current hairstyle, it takes me about 10 minutes.
But I would say it used to be Joe, and then now it's me.
She probably takes 20 minutes, so Dinty.
What do you miss most about the UK?
My friends.
Oh.
I mean, I liked Manchester in terms of how small and tight and compact it was. LA is massive and spread out, and you have to drive everywhere, so I like the convenience.
When can we expect a baby BluMaan?
Baby BluMaan, well, we just got little Rio. We're starting with the dog, okay? We gotta take things gradually over here.
Let's not talk about that. Well, the thing is, like, I know what Joe would have said, that's the thing.
I don't know. You know, I want a kid at some point. It's gonna be interesting to see what Dinty says.
I don't want kids. Joe, by the way, if you're watching this.
If you guys could move anywhere with money not being an issue and work not being an issue, where would you go?
There's so many places that I haven't been, so I can't answer that question.
I mean, we're already like in one of the most expensive places in the world. Like LA is pricey. We live in Hollywood.
Because what happens if there's somewhere amazing and then I've never been there and I want to live there? So I can't, that will have to be continued.
Right now, where I am in my life, I like that we just moved to Los Angeles. So I'd probably pick LA.
Whose idea was it to get Rio?
Both of us.
We both wanted a dog. Like, I think Dinty really wanted a dog.
So like, both of us wanted a dog, and then it just wasn't right because we were moving, and then we both wanted a beagle, and then I said, can we get it now? Because now's the perfect time.
It's one of those things where you can always find reasons not to, to postpone it. We were both just like, you know what, let's do it and we'll make it work. So it was really both of our idea. You all right there? Can you get it off? Get it off. Get it off. There you go.
Tell the story of how you both met the first time. Tell us the story of how you met Joe for the first time.
Oh, jeez. I was hammered.
I went to university in the UK. And I arrived about 2 weeks late because I was waiting for my student visa to come through. I got to uni on the first day and I had no idea where to go. So I just kind of stood around. My plan was to follow all the students to the next class. And then Dinty came up to me and could tell I was kind of lost. So she was like, do you know where to go?
Joe looked lost. And then I was like, hey, do you know where you're going? He was like, no.
And then she was just like, follow me.
And then we just found the lecture place together. And then we became best friends.
So fun fact, she was also the very first person I met at university.
So funny, because Joe, his story's the same, but Joe didn't mention you were drunk. If you guys could name one thing that you fight about most, what would it be?
Probably a combination between my stubbornness and how easy it is for her to change her mind last minute before we're about to do something.
We don't really fight. Like we don't have big arguments. What do we fight? What do we argue about? Probably Joe's stubbornness. He's gonna hate me.
Have you learned anything new about Dinty that you didn't know since you've been married?
That's a good question. It's an interesting dynamic with us because when I first got to university, we lived in student accommodation. So 200, 300 students in a building. And then after that, we moved into a place with 7 people. After that, we moved into a place with 5 people. And then we got married and moved in just the 2 of us. So it was a really gradual transition.
That's really difficult because Joe and I were friends for ages. And then we lived right, our living situation transitioned so gradually that I don't think there's anything I've learned that's different since we got married.
I've learned more than anything, we've both learned how to cope with our differences.
What's your favorite thing about Joe?
His patience.
What's your favorite thing about Dinty?
I'd say excitement. Dinty goes through the motions, she'll be super happy and then she'll be super sad, and it's always kind of a mystery and figuring stuff out. I'm very plain sailing and very kind of level-headed and logical, and there's not much that can really rock my boat. So it's fun having a very kind of excitable type of personality. I think that really complements me really well.
Do you still go on dates? If so, describe your perfect date with Joe.
We go on dates all the time.
Describe your favorite date night with Dinty.
Anything fancy food related.
Yeah, my favourite thing to do would probably be to eat food, like loads of food. That's like a good date. But like he likes to get me to experiment with my food, and I used to not like that, but then now I really enjoy that. So I'd probably want to go somewhere really different and get him to be like, try this, try this, try this, and then that'd be fun.
Tell us the story of how he proposed to you.
This is really soppy.
Basically, it was a pretty relaxed proposal for the most part. I knew that the way, you know, our relationship works, something a little bit more subtle was going to be better rather than something kind of public. I'm not really into that. Dinty's not really into that, so.
The situation is, without this being a really long story, is that we went to Bali and we went with Ben, Joe's business partner. I was convinced that Joe was going to propose to me on Valentine's because we went to like the beach in Bali, sunset meal, it was so nice, and I was like, if he doesn't do it now, which obviously we talked about it, then he's going to wait till after we move to Vancouver, because we were going to move to Vancouver at that point. So I just blanked it from my mind, and then the day that it happened, we went for a picnic in a national park, a typical British
national
It
park.
was a breezy day on the 20, I don't know what day it
The
was.
shuttlecocks were flying in the courts.
And I remember it was the nicest day of the year so far. I remember, you know, obviously I had nerves about me, but I was trying to find a quiet-ish place for us to have a picnic in a park.
He was acting a bit odd, set up a time lapse as well, but he was like, oh, I'm just doing time lapse like for a vlog, which he never does. And then he was like, come over here. And then I was like, all right. And then he said some really nice things. And then
We had some sandwiches, we had some champagne, and that's when I proposed.
And then he sat, right. So here's a picture of somebody proposing to somebody. Here's a picture of what Joe did, because we do actually have a video of it, yeah.
So we get it.
He didn't go down on one leg, he like sat on his leg. Just spat everywhere.
Who wears the pants in the relationship?
Dinty likes the things she does, but she definitely doesn't. Definitely me.
She's gonna hate that. Oh.
Me. No, it's equal. It's equal, I'd say. I wouldn't like someone telling me what to do all the time, but I tell Joe what to do a little bit, and he tells me a little bit. It's a good balance.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you that I'm going to read the question the way this guy wrote it because it's funny. How did Joe get from the friend zone to the end zone?
Oh. So.
That's a good question, because Dinty and I did start out as friends.
We were best friends for ages, and then I did not think of Joe like that, because there was like Josh and me and Joe, and we were like really, really good friends, like all three of us. We had like the same classes all together. I really liked that they both knew loads about cameras, so I could learn loads from them.
My feelings for Dinty definitely started developing before hers did for me. And I was already super happy with the fact that she was my friend. I didn't want to, you know, mess up what we already had as friends, because we were good friends. So I was like, you know what, I'm happy being Dinty's friend, and I'm not going to try to take it further. But then on the flip side, I was like, if this was to develop further, the best thing I can do is be a good friend.
We just started hanging out more and more, and I didn't like him like that. And then he went away for like a while. And then when he came back, I saw him and I was really nervous to see him for some reason. Like I hadn't felt like that before to Joe. I was like, why do I feel nervous to see him? Like, why am I wanting to make sure that I look okay? Because usually we just like cook dinner together and I'd just be like, wouldn't care, you know? And then I was like, oh my God, I think I like Joe. And that was like the moment that I fancied him.
If you're friends with someone and then you throw off that dynamic by being like, actually, I kind of want to be more than friends, that can turn someone off if they're not ready, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna keep this friendship going and be happy that I'm friends with Dinty and see if something kind of sparks from her end. And thankfully, it did. So I just played a bit of a waiting game.
If there was one thing that annoys you about Joe, what would it be?
I don't know, like our relationship is weird because we really get along very well.
Nothing, this sounds really cliche, but like nothing actually annoys me about Joe.
He'd be better because he had one.
Really? Oh shit.
The biggest thing is when we kind of make a decision to do something, I'm usually like, all right, let's stick to that. And then sometimes she'll like last minute, 5 minutes before we walk out the door, she'll be like, actually, I don't feel like it. And that kind of drives me a little bit crazy. But that's a dynamic that we've both been learning how to deal with and getting better at.
What have you learned from past relationships that's helped you in this relationship?
I'm not answering that.
I've learned to tone down my stubbornness. And I've learned to realize that even though I feel like I'm right most of the time, sometimes I just gotta let it slide.
You will never have the thought, I don't know whether I like this person.
That was nice. Okay, cool. In fact, that's all the questions. Okay, so finally, any message for Dinty before we finish?
Dinty, I'm right most of the time.
There it is. Cuts.